Welcome back. This is the Sundays Brunch podcast. I am your host, Bobby Matz.
I'm Ryan Bronson.
And today we have a very special guest, Ryan.
We have the man, the myth, the legend, Cato, Cat Olive from CLM Presents.
Cat Daddy,
Yes, sir.
as Parker always called me.
Cato, how the fuck are you?
Well, I mean, we can just cover one of the topics right now. I'm tired as fuck.
You should be. I see you out here grinding all the time. How exactly tired are you? Like, what's been going on?
I'm tired from last night because my dog woke me up at 3 a.m. to go shit outside.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's better than shit in his cage and then having to deal with that in the morning.
Silver lining.
I guess. But in general, I mean, I'm tired all the time. Work, kids, extracurricular activities, work, kids, extracurricular activities. Did I say that twice?
Yeah, you got a pretty full plate now, Cato, right? Because you have the business, you have 2 kids now, right? You got the wife, and then you got everything else going on behind the scenes.
And the
I
mullet.
like that shirt, by the way. That's right. And the mullet.
Hey.
The mullet's a full-time job by itself.
No, the mullet is the job.
That's right. Everything else is just secondary. It's the mullet and nothing else. Which can we say one thing about what we talked about last night, Ryan?
Of course.
Okay, so the mullet here, this is totally acceptable for me to grow this because I'm in the camp. I have carte blanche to do this.
Yeah,
Maserati Matt will graciously line this mullet up when I see him any and every time. I do have problems with people who rip off other people's styles. And there's a certain individual that Ryan and I had a very long discussion about last night that we're going to talk about during this, that, again, ripping off other people's fucking styles.
Yes. I feel like that is such a big thing, not even in the industry, but just in the world today alone, I feel like copycat culture is huge. Huge.
I mean, yeah, when was the last time they put out a fucking original movie that wasn't a sequel or a spinoff?
That's what I was just talking with somebody about at work the other day, was these newer generations of producers, directors, creatives, and everything. They're trying to revamp everything. Like, did you guys just see that they're trying to revamp Fresh Prince?
No, don't do that.
Yeah, and it's just like, yo, create your own,
bro.
Like,
no.
Like your own generational equivalents of what French Prince was to us and to the older generations. But like, I feel
guys, let's call it what it is. I mean, what are you guys doing right now?
Well, yeah, 100%.
I mean, there's no shame in it. I'm not judging you for it, but that's just the world we live in.
Yeah,
but it's just crazy. Do you think it's because everyone's lost touch in the creative side, or do you think that everything's already been done and everyone's trying to put their own spin on it?
No, what I think is that everyone thinks that they have a story to tell and that people fucking care.
100%. And at the end of the day, nobody cares. Exactly.
The only people that give a shit about you are you. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the same. It translates from music to podcasts to social media. Like, you post things and you do things that only you can relate to. And then you get those, random few that can touch on so many different things that so many different people can relate to, and those are the ones that you see usually be more successful than the others. Not to say that nothing that we're going to talk about on here that someone couldn't learn from, but outside of getting to those little nuggets of factual pieces of information, like, what real reason does anyone have to really tune into a podcast? Like, right. That's just the truth. Like, if you already have a fan base, it's makes sense. But if you don't and you're trying to draw one up from scratch, like, it's a very, very difficult process.
100%. Before we fully dive into brunch here, Bobby and I typically bring in a breakfast or a drink of choice for the brunch. Cato does not have one today. He's in the office. But Bobby, what'd you bring for us?
I got a little rendition of an Irish coffee.
Little whiskey in the coffee. What kind of whiskey did you get?
Little Jack. Jack. Nothing too crazy.
I skipped the meal today and went straight for the beer, having a little Michelob.
What are you talking about? Is that Michelob Ultra?
Yes, sir.
That's a snack. Light on the carbs. That's a meal in itself.
You
What are you
right. You
talking
right.
about?
You right. One of the big things that we talk about here on here is like the universal alignment.
Someone just texted me saying, "Hey, Kalen, my assistant just left you a voicemail. As a leader in the industry, I'd like to interview you for my second book." Bill Van Overbeck.
Bill Van Overbeck.
You hear it
I
here
don't know.
first. Cato's getting interviewed for
You
books
heard
now.
it here first.
Yeah,
So we
I'm
talk
drinking water. Drinking water, guys.
keeps the skin clear.
Got to stay hydrated. Got to make sure your pee is clear, at least a little tint of yellow. Because other than that, you're dehydrated. You don't want to be dehydrated. Be all crusty and shit.
100%. So we talk a lot about like universal alignment and things falling into place here. Cato, do you remember when did we meet Cato? It was back in 2014, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I never heard the story from Cato's point of view. Like, what did you think upon first meeting Ryan and myself, 2014, St. Louis, Chris Webby with Jitta?
I mean, it was weird to me, but Mike Judy always does weird things. And yeah, I don't give a fuck if people buy onto shows. Obviously, Bronson, we deal with that now on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
But it was a weird situation because at that time, that show in particular, Webby was not where he is now. Webby was at a bad place in his career. Things were going on behind the scenes that not a lot of people know about. And we were kind of in scramble mode trying to get shows. So when that show was booked and then took place, it was just the reality is the turnout for that show did not make sense to have a buy on. What should have happened for that show is local people with ticket selling power should have been like stockpiled on that show rather than whatever it is that you guys paid to get on that event. So it was weird that was the case. That's just in all honesty.
Yeah.
Because the show definitely underperformed, and I mean, it was fucking 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was the first time we had ever actually bought onto a show. I hadn't heard of that thought process until that time.
Yeah, I think that was the first time we ever bought onto a show because besides that, we've always done local.
Yeah, that was our first time doing a show outside of New York. So it was like I had never heard of the whole buy on thing. I don't know when that started. Obviously, Cato, you've been doing it a lot longer. So Cato, you at that time you were performing on those shows, right?
Yeah. No, I was during my transition, not knowing that I was going to be transitioning. Really, just started buying. I was like buying the show phase when I was trying to still be an artist, and everything kind of just fell into place from there.
So that's actually an interesting topic. Bringing up. Do you think you could dive a little deeper into that? So like, what do you think were the biggest challenges or I guess obstacles for you during the transition of being a performing artist into going more behind the scenes?
I mean, the first.
Great question. But before we go there, like Cato, when you were in the transition phase of being an artist and also buying the shows, what gave you that idea to like do that?
Just that I got tired of being. I mean, at that time I was working a day job and it was really difficult to berate my coworkers to come to my shows because, even at that time I was a little bit older than you guys and I had a full-time job. People that I worked with were around my age. I think at that time so 7 years ago, I was like 28, 29, 20, 30. Like that's kind of that time frame.
Right.
And it's all right. I'll say I'm 37. I'm 37 now. I've been in the game for a hot minute, which by the way, it's really fucking freaky to think about that 14 years ago when I was like really in my heyday of like moving around and performing. And I think about where I'm going to be 51 in 14 years. That's crazy to think about.
It is crazy.
So I don't think about some of the stuff we're going to talk about. I don't think about things how I used to. I think about things in segments of success rather than trying to obtain one goal. I think about them completely different than how I used to. But I got tired of like having to sell tickets. Is really what it was. And it's not like I didn't like have money. I didn't have like money to go like buy shows, but I had positioned myself through working relationships to be able to get favorable things for me that kept me from having to come out of pocket. So one of them was working with Webby really closely and working with his old management team and helping market the Chemically Imbalanced album and help them do a lot of stuff with fan clubs and shit like that. And then that just kind of like translated into getting a little bit of preferred treatment, I guess, when it came to having the opportunity to buy shows with them. And, even when I started that, like I was never thinking like there was going to be a transition period, but part of the problem then is that even though social media was obviously still huge at that time, that was a year after I'd moved to Kentucky. And one of the hardest things about constantly moving in a 10-year span is even though you do have the digital universe, you still have to fucking create a fan base. And
Right.
I just, at that age, and I just was like, fuck this shit. There's got to be something else I can do to hopefully get shows and continue to grow my artistry and whatnot. So it's kind of how that worked. And sorry, my hat's dirty as fuck. I love this hat. I'll wash it.
It's a good hat. But so yeah, so you had so for Bobby's question, like the transition from going from an artist into like more behind the scenes, you had, correct me if I'm wrong, already established the connection, somewhat of a connection to places to kind of start your behind the scenes business when you were going through the transition.
Yeah, like all those places that I was booking Webby at, and then a couple of other artists, like it's just coming through with what I said, like as far as like making sure artists were there and then just being professional and organized. It's really kind of what I feel like helped set me apart when it came to other people maybe trying to do the same thing or prior to me doing it or after me doing it. It was just, finding the right people, finding the right promoters, the right venues in those markets, and just really making sure that the relationship stayed intact. That way, any point down the line, I could basically go to them and do whatever I needed to do.
Built that connection.
And then at the same time, like when I jumped into when promoting was really, really being a thing that was taking up all my time, there literally was a time where I had a show with Nappy Roots, and I got simultaneously booked the same night in Minneapolis to open for Somo at Skyway Theater for 1,000 people. And I did that show, and 12, 15 seconds into that, I was just like, I knew right then and there that I was done.
That was just, it wasn't, you didn't want to be an artist anymore?
No, I didn't give a fuck.
Was that the passion had just shifted from being an artist to being a promoter or being?
Yeah, like at that time, I hadn't written in a while. I hadn't recorded in a while. The project I even dropped earlier in the year was a compilation of what I felt were like my best songs over the years. There were a couple new ones that I had done like the year prior, but a lot of that shit, none of that shit was like new. Like it wasn't like I just did that record last week or did that record like 9 months ago and I was sitting on it not knowing what I wanted to do with it. I kind of just felt like for me, the ceiling was just too high that I was never going to reach it. And we were fucking getting ready to have a kid. And there's so many variables that went into that. And it was just saving up all my PTO to go on the road versus saving up my PTO to spend time with my family was just not something that I felt was the work-life balance at that point had gotten out of control.
Would you say that you had spread yourself a little too thin at that point in time?
Yeah, because I had like now, like I get people always say like first impression of me is that I'm an asshole, and it's like, no, I'm not an asshole. It's just I know that I'm smarter than 9 out of 10 people in every room, so that's my demeanor. Like I expect a certain level of shit from people. So when I'm spreading myself thin, then it was more so based upon the fact that I'm half of my mental capacity is being taken up by shit I'm not interested in, working a day job. The other half of it, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to either make the transition, or even at that time, not even knowing I was making a transition, how am I going to continue to be an artist, make money, tour, like all these things. So my brain was filled with a bunch of shit. Like most people who now can multitask can do like 2 things at once. I could probably do like 15 at once, but as long as it's all things that I'm interested in.
Right.
So I'm spread thin now, but it's way more manageable because it's all kind of in the same ecosphere of shit.
And
it's just more about having time to do it.
And it probably holds your interest a little more.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, some of it's mundane stuff, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's not. I don't look at things and say like I'm working towards one goal. Like I'm trying to get my hands in as many pots as possible and try to obtain like shorter term goals. And at the end of the day, like a shorter term goal is growing the roster of clients that I have. Next thing is, helping artists develop and grow from certain levels of their career and get involved with not like their financial success, but being able to position myself to where I brought something of value to you, and now I'm being compensated over a period of time based upon what I brought you. And that's something that I've learned like fucking hands down from Ari from Riff's team. Like I've never said I've had a mentor, and he doesn't like mentor me, but just the fucking knowledge that this human has in his body it's insane. So learning from him on how to position and transition and pivot has been a fucking godsend.
Yeah. There's some of the shit that you tell me that you've encountered and learned from him. I'm like, how do you even think of that shit? Are you able to go and talk about a few of the people that you constantly do stuff for, or no?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, just give like a quick list of people that you work with right now.
Well, I've worked with Webb obviously since 2013, variety of capacities, booking, marketing, booking agent, just lots of stuff. I've always been the guy that got cut first if they were like getting ready to sign back with ICM or maybe go to Paradigm, and then I'm always the first guy they come back to when that shit doesn't work out.
Right.
Not because I have something that Paradigm doesn't. It's just I'm a believer in Webb, and I've supported him for a very long time. And as long as they tastefully give me a heads up that something's happening, like I'll be there whenever you may want to come back, or maybe you want to work me into the mix in a different capacity.
Fair.
It's the people that treat me like shit on the way out that can lick my taint. So
now speaking on that, Cato, with like having relationships and people kind of like like jumping between ships and whatnot, does that affect you in any way, or are you sitting pretty highly on your chair because like like I have something that a lot of people can't offer you?
I mean, I guess it's a combination. I'm confident in what I'm able to bring to the table. And even though like my ego says I'm smarter than most people, I know for a simple fact that I'm not smarter than everybody. And Ari, for instance, way smarter than me, knows the game way better than I do. But there's a lot of people that try to learn from me that I definitely know I have a lot more on. But when it comes to like the client side of things, like I know a lot, but obviously there are professional marketing firms out there that have like rosters of people. But I kind of look at it as like a record label type situation. Do you want to be with someone who's attentive to your needs, always available to answer your call, will give you the most simplistic breakdown of how things work, why they work, and why we're doing what we're doing? Or do you want to be on a roster with 50 other people that you don't have that attention that makes you feel special? And I think in a way that's kind of a benefit that I have been able to get into, is that I'm always available. Doesn't matter what the situation is. And, even if I fuck up, I'll always be the first one to say like, yo, I missed that, or I fucked up on that. Like big firms don't do that shit. They'll come up with some bullshit about why something happened and it wasn't their fault, or how it was the artist's fault. So I think that in itself, that would be my leg up on people. But not to say other people don't do that, or don't possess that same type of interest in all their clients. So but there's Webb, and then Riff. Started working with them in December of 2019, all throughout COVID, and worked my way into that situation and all the variety of things that we do. Through that relationship with Ari, and on the music that Riff was doing with Yellow Wolf, I got in touch and started talking with the GM of Slim American Clothing. Benji is his name. I think he's like the GM of the label.
Oh, dope.
And then on the other side is Ounce Zilla, who is Wolf's, I think, manager, and then also like head of label for Slim American, because there's like the label and then there's also the clothing side. And for the past like 6 months, I've been doing their digital advertising, helping them build out an app. And then obviously you've got Annoyed, who's on ADHD. I did stuff with Who Kid for a little bit. I've done stuff not directly with Payne, but I've done stuff with T-Pain's team.
Okay.
I've done stuff for DJ Paul of 3-6 Mafia through Ari, never directly with him, but I've worked it
through his people.
Yeah. And then just smaller artists like Echo and a girl named Pretty Shy. She's actually signed to Slim American. We're having some difficulties with her advertising strategy though, just because all of her content is extremely sexual, even the visuals. Even though I protest every time that it's hindering her growth because of it. Yeah, I mean, you can look at schaefermanagement.com/clients to see who I work with if you want.
So you've had like quite a roster of people that you've worked with. You've started as an artist, built the behind the scenes to the booking, the advertising, and everything. For people who come to you as people who are just starting out looking to hop on shows, I'm sure you see it all. What are some do's and do nots of people just starting out reaching out to you? Or to people who are in positions like yours? Say what?
I said I hate this fucking question.
Why? Because you snap?
No, just because like, I don't know, like I pass this stuff on to Kevin, man, because I don't want to deal with it anymore. And I don't, my perception to people, I don't care if they think I'm a dick, but like I try to stay clear of that because people have feelings, man. They all butthurt in their feelings about why this, why that. And it's like, no one ever just takes a look in the mirror and realizes that you're the problem. Like, I don't got a problem with anybody, but you know, some do's and don'ts. Some don'ts are, if you don't get booked on a show, don't go on social media and air out your dirty laundry right afterwards. Just don't do that. Why? Like, what's the point? Who are you impressing? Your 12 friends that liked your fucking post? Get the fuck out of here.
It makes you look desperate. It makes you look extremely desperate.
It happened last week. And I literally commented on the kid's post. I'm like, just tag CLM if you want to fucking air out your laundry. No need to sneak this, you douche.
That's incredible.
Jesus Christ.
At me, bitch. At me.
I don't fucking care. You know, Ryan, there's no actual right or wrong answer in the situation because I can tell people what my personal preferences are. And one, it's to be professional and nice. I don't judge people based upon grammar and spelling and punctuation just because I know different people have different educational backgrounds and I don't judge people on that. But if you approach me correct and you can show me some reason as to why you're the right fit for the show, then I'll do it. I'll give someone a shot for you know, the first time.
Sure.
But the don'ts are, you know, I won't book people. One, if you air out your laundry on social media, and two, if you send me a fucking message and I either read it or don't read it, and your follow-up message is ? Oh, it's over. It's done.
Yeah.
If you send me a DM after you've worked with me on a show and your first like way of getting my attention is, yo, and my response is no. I've told you 20 times to hit up Kevin. Stop fucking hitting me up.
Right. I guess better worded the question I was going to ask is because you see all the time people who are like artists. Whenever I've been on shows, like I've had other artists like reach out to me, be like, yo, bro, how'd you get on all these shows? And then you see the people on the internet who are like, I ain't paying for shows to get on this show, or I ain't going to sell tickets, all this shit. Like, what is your message to people who think that they don't have to sell tickets to get on a show when they're starting out?
Well, first and foremost, I want to make it very clear that no artist should ever look to any promoter as, I need you. You don't need me. Mm-hmm. I need you more than you need me.
Sure.
I don't own a venue. I don't own the bar. So there's a lack of revenue there that I don't have. For this show to be a success, I rely on you heavily to be a part of that success, which is why I give artists a fair opportunity to make money. I don't do $1 or $2 ticket cuts. I don't do $5. You sell 20 tickets, you make $100. Now I give you like 10 to 15 tickets at face value to go make your money.
Right.
Like no one does that. I've had conversations with other promoters like, wow, that's really that's crazy. That's a lot of money. And I'm like, yeah, because I want them to feel incentivized to not only sell their tickets, but to make their money, but then to also feel like they're a part of the show.
Right. Yeah,
So
I've
like,
never seen another promoter do that.
I want to be like, I just want that to be very clear with people. Is like, we don't sell slots. We don't. Now we will hold you accountable if you're going to execute a contract with me, because I feel like if I have to be held accountable with the artist to pay them their money and you fuck me, you should be held accountable for your actions. Because if whatever the reason, I don't care. Your mom died, your dog died, you got your left nut chopped off. I don't care. You are responsible for your commitment. That is what it comes down to at the end of the day. And if you don't want to be responsible for your commitment, then don't do the show, because it's the same ideology. The reason why booking agents and managers put stuff in contracts about a certain amount of money is owed if you, the buyer or purchaser, cancel the show within 30 days, that's because you took them off the books. Right. You took them off the books. Now they can't go fill that slot. Same thing with an artist. If you pull out on me 72 hours out and you basically tell me you're not going to pay me, you've taken that slot off the market. You're 100% going to pay me. Right. I will make it my personal fucking vendetta to blackball you in as many markets and shows as I can. And for the artists that think that's unfair, go fuck yourself.
Okay, though, tying
Don't
into
mess
that,
with my money, and I won't mess with your money.
Facts. That's
100%. Like you,
it's
like
at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, it's a business. But tying into that, do you think that there's an issue with transparency within the industry and like honesty?
There totally is. The industry is built for the promoter and the venues to fail. That's just the truth. If you ever look at the Live Nation like annual reports that they come out, I think Ryan, we talked about this last night. Did we talk about this? Live Nation's number one revenue spending is booking concerts. Their loss column is booking concerts. It's built against us to be successful, because if you actually break it down, and if you were to talk to any investment banker or anybody on Wall Street or deals in money market and trading stocks, 15% return is horseshit. Every single professional trading person in the world would tell you to not make that investment. But yet that somehow is the industry standard for promoters. I get to make 15%. I just risked $20,000.
Right. That does not make any sense.
That's bullshit. So get back to the ticket selling thing. I really don't give a fuck what any artist does. All I know is if you want to work with us, these are the stipulations. But I will tell you that if that is your ideology, you are never going to do anything, ever. That is a 100% fact. And you need to look yourself in the mirror and come to terms with that shit. If you can't sell 10, 20 tickets, you better hope you go viral on TikTok, because there's nothing out there for you.
Yeah,
it really isn't. Nobody's going to want to talk to you. How else are you proving that you are worth it? How else?
There's no other way.
You can send me a video with 1 million views on it. Good for you. Send me the stats. I guarantee you 999,000 of those are in fucking India.
Yeah, because people buy fucking views these days.
Well, they have been forever. I did it. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like
also virality doesn't always translate to ticket sales either.
That's what I was just about to say. I feel like a big thing in like music today is you'll see people with millions of streams, and you'll think that they're the most popping thing ever, but they can't even sell out a 200-300 cap room.
I mean, there's a lot of artists in that space, and there's a lot of artists that, have that viral sensation, but we'll use some examples here, and I don't care either way. I don't have any preference on their music whatsoever, so I'm just using these two artists as examples. But like, say, Dax and Tom McDonald, right? Both of them do very shock value type things. There's nothing out there that proves, besides concerts, that your videos accumulate those views simply based upon the fact that people want to see what you're going to say. It doesn't mean that they're ever going to come to your show. Like Dax, when we booked him in 2019, he probably had 5 or 6 10+ million view videos, and we did maybe 250 people. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that was his first time going on the road, so I think that had something to do with it as well. But if you're going to base it solely on this person's YouTube catalog that person should have been selling out 1,000 people rooms easily.
Right. And the numbers don't translate always, especially because the numbers often, YouTube is a lot. Obviously, YouTube is big in the US, but it's so much bigger in other markets that don't have access to other platforms. I think, Cato, like that's something that you and I talked about yesterday. You asked me the question, like, who the fuck has the time to sit on YouTube all day? Like, why is YouTube so big? So I did a little bit of research last night, and it was.
I know the answer to this, but go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you what I found, and then you answer that question afterwards. Like what I found was the population of YouTube views typically doesn't. The bulk of it doesn't come from the US.
It's true. That's true, and the reason behind that is because our country is in a different situation in that A, our population is smaller than most countries. B, we're not considered a third world country where you have overpopulation of people. And C, we're like one of the few countries in the world that have consistent entertainment across the board. So we have something that's constantly distracting us all the fucking time. It's why whenever you're doing advertising in other markets, it's relatively cheaper because A, there's more people, and B, there's more people on their devices all the fucking time. So if you're someone in South America per se, which is why a lot of MCN networks in the YouTube world, they function and they make a large amount of money in Brazil and South America and Argentina and all that crap. None of those people will ever get to see G-Eazy live in concert. Never. Their only vice is to watch them on YouTube. Mm-hmm. None of those people are ever going to get to see their favorite artist. Very fucking good chance of that. So in those countries, English speaking or not, YouTube is their go-to. It's not. It's like if you look at Spotify's massive in the States.
Yeah. Spotify. But we have access to. Like, their only access point is YouTube. We have YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Tidal, Pandora,
Twitch,
Play, all these other
Tinder, Grindr,
right? So it's all split up like the way we consume it here, whereas other countries have just this one platform. And that's how YouTube used to be here before we had all the other shit.
Well, that's why, like, even though you misquoted that yesterday, I was thinking about that more this morning, and I still disagree with that statement, like, adamantly. So just so you know, last night Ryan put, heard someone in the industry on a podcast say a music video is a poor investment and unnecessary in today's digital economy. And I asked him who the fuck said that, and he said Mike Stud. Well, that led me down a tangent on Mike Stud. But I thought that statement in itself was completely horseshit. Because the truth of the matter is, you can easily build it's one of those things like likes beget more likes. And if you can show somebody that you're popping, like, people in the States will naturally gravitate towards it. So if you start building a fan base in South America or in Europe or in Australia, where maybe for you it's a little less, it's more cost effective for you to get those views, those are real views. Those are real people. Those are real people that are probably going to go try to find you on social media, and it's just going to compound and build and build. Right. So yeah, maybe at the end of the day, spending $80,000 to $120,000 on the video is more along the lines of what he meant. But in the general scheme of things, like, everything you do in this business is not. I don't look at things as an expense. I look at them as an investment. You're making an investment in hopefully what is a long and fruitful career.
Right, and it builds your brand equity also.
Exactly. But whenever I got off the phone and I called Ryan back, he told me that he completely fucked up that quote. And it's not what he said at all. I don't retract.
And that brings me to to one of the points that we put in the notes today, and it's the honesty in the industry. The bulk of my career, I've worked with you, and the few times that I've branched out to work with a handful of other people, I've noticed nobody, as far as marketing, as far as shows, as far as management, as far as anything goes, holds themselves and their company to the same level of accountability and honesty that you do. And there's always smoke and mirrors with anybody else that I've come encounter with, whether it's been promoters that I've talked to, whether it's been the 2 record labels that reached out to me. It was all like smoke and mirrors. There was shit in the fine print that was the average person, if they didn't have fucking people that they knew that were like illegal, were pretty much trying to fool you to take advantage of you. Can you speak? Can you speak a little on one situations like that you've seen where people are just flat out lying to people and taking advantage of them, and 2, like your thought process and your experience, because you are one of the few honest and down to the half a penny real people in the industry?
Well, I don't think I have any one specific instance in mind. It's something like I could say that I saw, and maybe there's just been so many I'm numb to it. But you're on it. You're dead accurate. Like the dishonesty in the business, I think translates beyond the music industry, and it's just the dishonesty in people in general in every aspect of life. Like everybody's trying to make a quick buck. Everybody's trying to cut corners. Everybody's trying to, become the next millionaire without ever actually spending any of their own money or working 17 hours a day. Like that's just the reality of life.
Sure.
And I don't think it's specific, like I said, to the industry. I think it's just people. And, this can kind of segue into the millionaire talk that we had last night too, is that, this whole and I'm not getting political. I'm just using this as an analogy.
Sure.
This whole all lives matter shit is for the fucking birds, because the truth of the matter is your life only matters to you. It's kind of like echoing what I said at the beginning. Like the only people that give a shit about what you do is you. And at the end of the day, the people that focus less on what others do and more on themselves tend to be the happier people, and they tend to be the more successful people.
Right.
When you stop trying to please everybody, that's when you really come into your own, and you understand. And that could be age, it could be experiences, it could be a specific situation that completely flips your world upside down. But that's how it's been for me. And that's how earlier when I was saying, I don't set goals, I set windows of time that I want to accomplish things, because I feel like it's a much more manageable way to live, and you can manage your own expectations way easier. So for instance, when I was an artist, at that time, there was no real clear cut pathway on how to be a career musician. Now, that terminology is something that not a lot of people use, but a career musician obviously is that. You make music your whole life, maybe you write songs for people, but you make enough money to live and you're happy. Mm-hmm. Everybody else wants to do these viral and anything, pick a platform, and they want to become famous. They want to get signed, and that's just a really shallow way to live, because it's empty. There's no self-gratification, there's no fulfillment in that process. So for me, I just constantly try to be honest about the situation. If I'm talking to someone either new or repeat, I try to be completely transparent with every piece of information that I can. I'll give you a really good example. I have financial trust with Ari. I have a credit card for Jody Hyrule Entertainment, and I'm responsible for spending and things that we need. I was buying something off of a client's website that I have to work with, Recante Hot Sauce out of Costa Rica, and I forgot that the Jody High Roller card was saved in the account when I bought the hot sauce or bought the beef jerky or whatever it was. And it was $5.99. It was nothing, but I totally forgot that card was saved in my shop account, and I immediately saw that, and I texted Ari and I was like, "Hey, subtract $5.99 out of whatever you pay me next month." That to me, that's a little thing that speaks volumes to the person that you want to be, and that people perceive you to be. $5.99, guy's a fucking millionaire. And I just told him yo, take $5.99 off my next payout or whatever it is, because I feel like that's the honest thing to do. And I think at the end of the day, it's really easy to spot the fakes, in my opinion, when you're a real one. Because at the end of the day, all you have is your word. Like the only certainties in life are the things that you put into play and death. That's it. Like I can't control anybody else. I can only control myself. And if your word is shit, you know, you're going to be exposed to the fake somewhere. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. You may have schemed and done and smoked in mirrors and done all these things and made your money. But at some point, it's going to be known that you're a bad person and that you're, you know, I know that doesn't answer your question, but that's at the end of the day, that's just the standard I hold myself to. And it's why I don't fuck with a lot of people. It's why I don't talk to a lot of people. It's why I don't have friends. Like we can disagree on political views. We can argue about the president. We can argue about COVID. We can argue about all those things. But at the end of the day, if your core value is being a trustworthy person that does what they say, I can fuck with you.
Right.
I may think you're stupid still, but I can fuck with you.
I'm your friend.
Because I know like deep down in your heart, you're a good person. Right. And that's important. I get like me and my wife, we disagree on a lot of political things all the time, but she's a good person. That's more important to me than whether or not I like Biden or she likes Trump. Like it's, you know.
Right. Yeah. It's at the end of the day, everybody's entitled to their opinion, whether it's right, wrong, up in the air, whatever. But if you're not a good human being, then none of this shit even matters. Because if you're not a good human being, your opinion has ulterior motives anyways.
Yeah. And then you're essentially just a Karen. And I mean, I disagree with that statement in itself. Like, I don't believe that everyone's entitled to their opinion. I really don't. I think
everyone's entitled to their opinion. I don't think everyone needs to share their opinion.
I mean you're entitled to keep your opinion to your fucking self is what you're entitled to.
Right.
That's really what it is. At the end of the day, like,
educated enough to have your opinion.
And that's part of the problem, man. This whole like all lives matter, Me Too movement, social media, false information, misinformation, whatever the case may be. Like, not believing science, not believing the CDC, believing the presidency, and there's so many things that like are just shoved in your face on a daily that you're just I don't know what to believe. But if you're the person that spouts off any of that shit as if it's your own thoughts, I hate you.
Yeah.
Down in your core.
That's one of the things we talked about on the last episode. Is like with the information and the way information is. I could take a Google search and type in, hey, this is what's in front of me. So for example purposes, I can type in, hey, is beer good for you? And you can find 10 sources that say, is beer good for you? But on the flip side, I can type in, is beer bad for you? You can type in why beer is bad for you for the same amount of sources. So like, what the fuck do you actually believe? Who do you believe? You know, like especially when it comes to research, because you can find a reliable source that says one, air quotes around the word reliable, but you can find reliable sources that back up each fucking thing that you just typed in the internet.
I mean, yeah, you gotta, I don't know. It's a touchy subject. I personally love fucking beer. I mean,
if you
drink
okay.
Corona.
If you
I prefer Corona over any other beer.
Okay, we're gonna pause from the serious talk for a second. We're gonna go a little bit off topic. If you had the chance to have a refrigerator in your house that was constantly refilled all the fucking time with one beer, you empty it, it's automatically refilled. What beer?
Corona.
Corona? I'm shocked you didn't say Bud Light.
And that's the drink of public consumption.
What if you're by yourself as Corona?
Oh yeah.
Fair enough. I think I'm gonna go Blue Moon.
Blue Moon gives me a headache.
I would go Guinness.
Guinness bloats me.
Guinness is a very heavy beer. Yeah. Very heavy.
Guinness makes me poop. I have two and I'm like, oh fuck. This is the cold beer. I've never in the amount of time, what's it now, 7 years? Holy fuck, I've known Cato for 7 years now. That's wild.
You've never seen me drink Corona?
I've never seen you drink Corona in those 7 years.
It's always It's always we drank Corona in New York
Ah,
and Busch Light and pretty much everything else that the liquor store had.
yep.
To be fair, I don't remember New York.
I do. I remember waking up at 6 a.m. having to take a shit, and someone had clogged the toilet the night before, so I took a dump in the shower.
That was my bad. I think I blamed that one on Tyler, but that was me.
Yo, flip side of the coin. What is your least favorite beer?
Any IPA.
Ooh.
Okay.
Any. IPAs are an acquired taste, and I don't have any acquisitional prospects of drinking an IPA in my fucking life again.
I can do IPAs. I prefer like a red ale or a stout typically.
Here's my question. Why can't good tasting beer have the same alcohol content as shitty tasting beer? I don't understand that.
Facts.
What
That's
the fuck?
what I'm saying.
Do you know why people drink Miller Lite and Bud Light? And Miller Lite's it's more of a salty taste for me, but I can tolerate it. But you know why people drink those beers? Because A, they're affordable more than an IPA. You get a 30-pack for the same price as a 6-pack.
Right.
And B, because they fucking taste good. You're telling me you can't double the alcohol content in this bitch and still make it taste good?
Yeah, that's for facts. I drink Bud Light and Miller Lite because of the fucking calorie content. Because if I'm drinking beer, I bloat and I can only get a few down.
Well, I mean, there's a simple answer to that question. Why would they do that? They have no reason to do that. The more you drink of higher content alcohol, the less you drink overall.
Well, what is Bud Light Platinum? Isn't it 8%?
Yeah.
It tastes like silver water is what it tastes like.
Yeah.
It's cold as fuck. It's for some reason it's way colder than regular Bud Light. Maybe they just put it in a freezer next to the Coors Light, 32 degrees, whatever it is. But it tastes fucking weird.
It tastes like pennies, which according to Bobby is the same taste that eating ass tastes like.
Yeah, it tastes like ass.
According to Bobby, eating ass tastes like pennies, but
Just so you know, you're really far away from your mic, Ryan, and I can't really hear you.
Test, is that better?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Test, is that better?
You sound like you're on the other side of the room.
Test.
Okay, now it sounds like you're on top of the mic.
Are we better now?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta buy a new XLR cord. Mine shorted out. But okay, we're gonna get back on topic here a little bit because we're gonna fucking edit that part out where my mic cut out. There's a very important topic in the notes that Cato added, and it says, be very wary of people who want more than just a thank you. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so in the industry, or even on a lower level, I feel like not everybody can equally reciprocate something that you do for them. So, for instance, if someone invests a lot of money in your career, but they don't have the financial abilities to maybe repay you, because A, they don't have the money, and B, that was never a part of the situation. If at the end of that, something goes awry and you've taken every other opportunity that has been presented to you and you've moved onward and upward, if at the end of the day, that person or those people want things out of you years down the line, rather than just, hey, thank you for your contribution to getting me to where I am, that's just a weary situation to be in. And I feel like those people have way too many personal feelings invested in it. And look, this is a hard thing to not do, but I believe that if you become friends out of business, that's going to be a way healthier working relationship than trying to be friends and then get into a business working relationship. It's very fucking difficult because when your friend sees you as one person and they have a hard time differentiating work person or boss person versus friend person or homie person.
Right.
That's why a lot of people who go into business together end up fucking loathing each other, because all of those egotistical things that maybe they were easily able to hide when they were friends, now whenever money comes in, they're fucking right there in your face, and you're like, who the fuck is this person? and the other person feels the same exact way. But that's just really what it is. When you go into any situation, regardless of if the trade is or the favor is equal or it's not, unless I say to you, hey, Ryan, I'm going to give you ABC, and in return, you're going to give me XYZ, and you agree to that. And at the end of the day, I come through, you come through, cool. It doesn't matter if ABC and XYZ are equal. It doesn't matter. That's what the expectation was, and you delivered on what we agreed.
Right.
But if there's no clear outline of what it is, I mean, everything's just kind of thrown together, and one person becomes more successful than the other, or transcends or moves on, and your sole existence at that point is to belittle them and make them feel like the only reason you are where you are is because of the things that I did. Like, it's a toxic relationship, and it's not good to have around. So that's just kind of the point, is like, if you're working with anybody and there's no clear expectation on what each party is receiving, and at the end of the day, if they're wanting more than just to thank you and to see you do well, those aren't people you need in your life, because those are the people that are going to fucking weigh you down, stress you out all the time, give you fucking headaches. And it's just
push you to a breaking point.
Yeah, because like I said, man, like I don't have like a specific goal in mind besides I want to build a conglomerate. And it stems from me. And I have no problem helping teach people how I do things to help build those things up faster. And that's funny because I always Megan always, and I joke because she knows it's bullshit. Like, I'll be like, oh, well, Kevin's coming to Kentucky so that way I don't have to travel as much. Well, that on the surface is fucking true. Like, after this year, I don't want to travel anymore. I want to go to my kids' fucking baseball games and shit. That's what I want to do.
As you should.
But
you've earned that point. You've earned that right.
I think I have. But just because Kevin's here doesn't mean I'm going to work less. Kevin is freeing me up from all the mundane bullshit that I have to do. Mm-hmm. Kevin, now it's his time to put in the work to do those mundane tasks to get to where hopefully he's at age 30 where I'm at now.
Right.
And it frees me up to be more available to other people, to take on other bigger tasks that I can then, move specific portions of that job down to another individual. So, like, my personal goals are to have Kevin take over CLM in like a full-time capacity without my oversight. Obviously, I'm still my money. I'll sign contracts.
Still CEO.
But he's going to be the person moving forward with the business, which I'm totally good with. I want to focus on the other side of things. But at the same time, like, I look at one thing as like a stepping stone to the next thing. Like, I don't necessarily, and Ari says this to me all the time. He's like, you don't want to be running people's Facebooks for the rest of your life. Like, no, I don't want to do that. But I look at that as a segue into something bigger and better. Like, they see the skills and the tools that I have, and that translates into hopefully me being able to help them in a much larger capacity. And I think I said earlier about getting attached to something that I bring value to, and I'm compensated for that for a period of time, and then just keep repeating that process. And that's kind of what Ari does now with some of his other artists that he works with, is he presents them with opportunities, he provides his value, he makes connection A to connection B, and off they go. And Ari, is heavily involved in every step of that process, and then is continually involved in it as it grows and matures. But Ari is being compensated that entire time based upon the value he's brought to the table. And that's the kind of position I want to be in. And that's where, like I say, Ari is like a mentor. Is Ari has never in his professional career, he's told me, has ever let someone in his house per se as he's let me. And I, the things that he's taught me, the things that I continue to learn from him, I want to make the best decisions based upon how he's taught me. And I want to make him proud that I'm doing things the way that they need to be done. I have a lot to learn. I'm telling you, I may be the boss shit in our rooms, but dude, when Ari walks in the room, like, conversation shifts. I'm in listen mode. I'm not in talk mode anymore. Because that dude he's a fucking G.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna give you your flowers real quick. Because obviously, well, before I do that, you're obviously very knowledgeable and passionate about what you do. Do you love what you do?
I love the fact that I get to work in the industry. Leave it at that.
So you love the industry.
I don't like everything that I do. I don't. It's meticulous. It's mundane. I feel like I've grown beyond it, but I see the need as to why it has to be done. So I don't like look at anything that I have to do and be like, that's below me. I just wish I had someone else to do it. That's really it.
Fair. So yeah, okay, that's fair. And we're gonna give you your flowers because again, known you for 7 years, and it's the same thing as we're like, I know a lot. I'm still learning a fucking lot. And as far as like my career goes, anytime people come to me, I'm like, okay, I have information that I can share, that I can spread. But then when I hop in the room with you, I'm like sponge mode, absorbing information. And
you should have said SpongeBob mode. That's what you should have said.
SpongeBob mode?
Yeah.
Does that make me Patrick because I've been living under a rock?
Yeah.
That's fair. But I turn to sponge mode and I absorb the information that you share. And it's the same thing as like when I accomplish something, when I do something, because of the mentor unintentionally role that you've become for me as a friend and as a partner in the business. I'm like, is Cato proud of this? You know? And giving you flowers because my career wouldn't be half of what it was if I never came in contact with you 7 years ago.
I appreciate that.
If Bobby and I never came in contact with you 7 years ago. So giving you your flowers and gratitude always your way. And
appreciate that.
My opinion of a day one homie is not somebody who's rode with you since your existence. A day one homie is somebody who's rode with you since day one of meeting you, and that's been you. So forever grateful for having Cat Olive in our corner.
Forever.
Forever, ever.
Forever, ever. But back to the conversation and that Facebook thing. One of the big things you do right now is social media ads for all the people that you have on your roster and helping them set that up and retargeting and setting up ads and acquiring new audiences on top of people who are already established somewhat of an audience, which is a very hard thing to do. Once you have some audience, growing that even larger. Can you speak a little bit on the importance of one, social media ads, and two, like not just being content where you are and always consistently leveling up?
Well, the leveling up thing is just, I think, applies to everything, not just music. Like even for me with the goals, building a conglomerate, getting from here to there. Like, and by the way, anybody who says money doesn't buy happiness just doesn't have any.
Yeah, they're full of shit. Money indeed does buy happiness.
Dude, I'm going to Hawaii for a month next year. A fucking month.
Ooh, what month did you choose?
June to July.
Oh my God.
If I don't get a photo of you in a coconut bra, I'm gonna be pissed.
I might have to do that. Yeah, so like I tell Ari this, like it's why like my soul is attracted to this human, because the man is never satisfied, and neither am I. Like I'm never content. Like yeah, I do have my chill time at night where I hang out with my kids, but like if I wasn't hanging out with my kids, I'm either going to be at the gym or I'm going to be working. Like there is no other for me. I don't fucking sit and read books. I don't go shoot the shit at a bar. Like if I'm at a bar, it's because I'm working.
Right.
That's it. So to me, that's always constantly figuring out a way to level up. And Ari, I think if Ari was like everybody's manager in the business, everybody would be the most successful humans ever. That's just the truth. Because there's a lot of artists that I work with, not even in a client capacity, but I see like stagnant shit because they don't, maybe they're comfortable where they're at. Maybe they're comfortable with their financial situation. Maybe they just don't know where to go next, but leveling up is important as fuck. Like constantly trying to be better, constantly trying to figure out ways to get into different areas, constantly trying new things. But I think at the same time, the weird like barrier there that you have to figure out what works for you is when leveling up and figuring those things out becomes a distraction. That's the big thing. And that can kind of partition into the whole social media side of things, is that
Sure.
It is the worst. Social media is the worst thing ever fucking created. I fucking hate it. I have no interest in sharing my life with anybody online. When I was an artist, it was a necessity. but social media is a distraction, not only for the creator, but the people consuming it. And we had this, I made this comment to you last night, like if more millionaires just got on social media and got distracted by other people's lives, they probably would stop getting divorced so much, because they're fucking mistresses and shit, because they got nothing to do with their time. Unless you're constantly like just making money, like you're going to have downtime.
Right. At some point, that making money turns to an addiction.
Yeah. So like, you know, I envy people like John Bellion and even J. Cole that only use social media when it's time.
Sure.
You never see shit about these guys ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that I wish was more of a common thing with artists, but it's a slippery slope. If everybody had that same mindset, then social media wouldn't exist.
Social media wouldn't be what it is, and
it wouldn't be it for artists. So it's like, which one do you want? And it's the same thing with like classifying people. We talked about this last night too, about classifying people in the lower class, middle class, upper class, and wealthy. Like, it's the same concept. Like, not everybody can be wealthy. That's just how it is. Not everybody has that same drive. It's not 15 minutes of fame for everybody. It's an average. So 20 of you get 0 minutes, while the other person gets a lifetime of rich and fame and celebrity. Like, it's not for everybody. Not only because you don't have the drive or the focus, but because even if you did and you got there, like, mentally, you have a breakdown. You can't handle it. So it's almost like breaking down social media in the same hierarchy. There are the people who are super successful and driven and who use social media like Gary Vee does to be a tool to teach people and to make money, versus being the person consuming the social media and being a distraction on your life and not taking one step further towards that next obtainable goal or level of success. Like, there's a vast fucking difference in, I would say, 95% of humans that don't get it and 5% that do. And I'm guilty of being on both sides of the spectrum, but I feel like I'm lean more towards the other side because I'm able to acknowledge my fault in that as well. But I know that if I could just get this one portion of my fucking vices off my plate, man, it would be game over.
Yeah, I agree. I think social media is more of you're right. It is a slippery slope. It's, for one hand, it's an essential tool these days because TV doesn't exist in the same capacity. Like, those types of commercials, those advertisements aren't reached by as many people because of Netflix, Hulu, all those streaming services. And radio is the same way because of Spotify, because of satellite radio and all that shit. So people aren't being exposed to shit the same way. So for you being somebody who runs these ads for artists, like, one, like, without giving away your secret sauce, like, what do you, when you're setting up these ads for artists and you're looking for the engagement with the ads, like, what is the thought process behind the targeting?
I mean, it's pretty simple. If you don't have your own like organic engagement, it's targeting people that you think are like you. I mean, that's really that's no secret sauce. That's pretty much how it works with everything. But the social media thing is an illusion, to be honest, because
the more interactions, the more re-interactions.
People bitch about having to pay to interact with your own fans. Let's be very fucking clear here. They're not your fans. Let's just be very clear about that. Facebook, it's Facebook's users.
Right.
It's Instagram's users. It is their platform. You chose to join their platform. It is their first party data that they are now selling to you to use.
Right.
Let's be very clear about that. So if you don't have people who like your page and the ability to buy viewership from the people that Facebook and Instagram own, then you have to try alternate methods, which would be creating audiences based around similar likes, similar music, which is always why, like, I felt it was very important when I was an artist to, like, give out cards and get people to follow me on social media. So it kept building and building and building. Now, at that time, there was no lookalike audiences. There was no Google, whatever audience whatever they call that same shit. They created it before Facebook did, but there was none of that shit. So the illusion part is when you don't have those things, it's about getting the views, getting the engagement, and then basically showing people, hey, book me. Look how cool I am. Look how many people like me. Look how cool I am.
It's that social proof.
Yeah. So
social proof of your popping, that you're popping, that monkey see, monkey do type mindset.
Yeah, likes get more likes. That's just how it works. So like even when I'm doing stuff for like Webby and them, like we're focusing more on internal than we are external sometimes growth. But at the same time, external growth is obviously just as important because the more people that like your page, the more people that get your notifications, the more people that see your stuff organically, the less you technically should have to spend on your advertisements. But iOS 14.5 fucked everybody right up the ass.
Yeah, because the whole fucking the way they get the conversions with the whole
the privacy tracking is fucked.
Yeah,
fucked everybody up.
That rules.
So now, just in some of the conversations and on the Rift side, like we're having conversations with like companies that deal more in first party data. Like I've always been a big like get emails, get phone numbers, because you just don't know when Facebook is going to go offline. You don't know when the government's going to intervene and tell Mark Zuckerberg to fuck off and take that shit off the internet. You just don't know.
Right.
So the more first party proprietary data that you can own, like the better.
That's one of the things that I got from you one of the first times. Well, it was after the Cam Meekins tour that we did together. It was when I went on that just as the fucking merch guy for the Nate tour, and I saw you guys obtaining like the email addresses. That's one of the things that I got from you was go someplace. If people interact with you, if they buy the merch, get their email address so you can retarget them later. And also, like, you were way ahead of the fucking scene with the whole cell phone number thing. I remember, and I still use this to this day. Like, now they have services for it where you can pay for it, but it's free through Google, which is what you told me at the time was you go through Google Voice, get a phone number, get people to text you so that you have their number, and then when you drop something, send it to them. You were way ahead of the curve on that, and I still use that to this day, and it's still one of, in all honesty, like obviously like Facebook ads are very important to a career, and like the random posts that you do are very important to like me on a smaller sphere as the people that you work with. It's still important, but my direct conversions come from the people who have added me on Snapchat and I can direct send to them, and the people who through email addresses and text messages and I can directly contact them.
Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, another thing too that I stumbled upon was learning that when you have an Android phone, you can basically you can download a Google template on how to import contacts into your Gmail account, and then you sync that Gmail account with your Android phone, or actually really any phone, but it's more primarily going to work on your Android. So where your entire contact list is going to be your entire Google upload. What you do from there is you go into your Snapchat account, you open it up, and you go follow every motherfucker in your contact list.
Yep. People
that you never even met before, but you got their information off a ticketing site. I do that shit with CLM all the time.
100%.
We've got like 15,000 followers on CLM because we just went through and followed everybody who bought tickets.
Yeah, that's what I did that with my contact list and my email address on my Snapchat also. And even like the fucking local people that pop up and you're recommended because of the location services, add them all because of where you're at, and you'll suddenly start getting people who are like just viewing your stories or interacting, or if you send it directly, they'll start clicking on your links. And if you actually can see the stats of that, if you do it through like a ToneDen or a Amplify, or there's other link services, I don't know who everybody uses, but you can see where the traction comes from. And 90% of mine come from Google Voice and Snapchat.
I think one thing that people need to really focus on too is how they use their social media on the come up. Too many people spend time trying to just push music and they forget to just be themselves. Like that's part of being an artist, is getting people to relate to you. And if all you're doing is dropping music and you're not dropping things about you, people are going to tend to shy away from it. Like motherfuckers that tag me and shit. Like, unfriend immediately.
I'm guilty of that earlier in my shit. It was everything I posted was just all music. And now that I post lifestyle shit, it's like all of a sudden people are interested. So knowing what you know and having the know-how of the ins and outs, not the ins and outs of social media, but the know-how of ads, would you say it's easier, harder, or in the middle, like it doesn't matter, to promote something or someone if they have an existing audience, or you're building from the ground up?
If they have an existing audience,
Yeah. Or if you're doing it
it's,
from the ground up.
I mean, it's easier if they have an existing audience, but it's catch-22. Like, how do you get the existing audience?
Right. I think
It's,
that goes
dude,
like,
this is what I was saying yesterday. Like, I got mad love for you. I always have. I respect your hustle and I respect where your heart is. But it's why I tell most people who are in their 20s, like, sure, have fun with it. But like, the reality is like, you're going to spend a majority of your 20s, you're spending your time in your youth trying to obtain something that is so hard to achieve. And that's not to knock anybody. Like, I'm not trying to shit on anybody's dreams. Like, but it's so fucking hard, man. It really fucking is. And as knowledgeable as people think that I am, they would think that, I mean, I would have had a leg up on everybody. No, man, I did everything wrong. I bought views. I bought likes. I did all the wrong shit. And I learned through all bad mistakes what the right pathways were. And I just learned them way too fucking late. That's not to say that I wouldn't have had the same outcome in 2013, 2014 that I didn't want to be an artist anymore. That's not to say that that wouldn't have happened anyways.
right.
Maybe I would have gotten burned out. Like, I was burned out, but that's my opinion, man. And now, cause now, like, when I, reference like 37 and I'm 14 years ago and 14 years from now, like, I can't change that time, and it puts me where I am now. And I'm fucking thankful for that. But one step this way or one step that way, maybe I would have learned something a little bit quicker that I wouldn't have. I don't look at that time and say, damn, I wasted my 20s. Those 20s put me where I am. But if I can either help someone navigate a little bit quicker or maybe get them to view things a little bit different. Cause like, dude, Dylan Reese posted this the other day about like something about taking a break and something like that. And I'm like, man, I wish more people would have that same mindset. Like like health is wealth, man. Like, and that's not to say like people need to stop doing what they're passionate about, but like sitting back and reflecting and like giving yourself, especially at a young age, like give yourself like a 3 to 5 year plan. Like, where do you see this going? Where do you see the money coming from for this to happen? And like really maybe setting yourself on your own timeline and to say, if X, Y, Z doesn't happen at this time, I'm mentally capable and willing and ready to shift gears. Because when it just hits you, it's so much harder. It's so much harder on you mentally, on any person. But if you prepared yourself for either like, hey, in 5 years, I know I'm going to hit this, and you keep pushing and driving and you hit it, fucking great. You're super ecstatic. But if in 5 years if you didn't hit it, at least you're going to feel satisfied. You're going to know that I gave it fucking everything I had, and I positioned myself well with other avenues of the industry to be able to transition and do other things and still be happy. That's my 2 cents on the whole situation.
That's fair.
I like that outlook.
Cato, what would you, doing this as long as you've done it and being in this industry space, in this field as long as you have, has there ever been people who have like, one, either doubted you or looked at you differently because of your age versus the value that you could bring? Or did they look at the age did they look at your age and how young you look and look at you sideways, or was it just a pure like value based thing?
Well, I mean, I think I've been blessed in many ways to look younger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, my scruffy gray beard just says otherwise.
That scruffy gray beard is new to everybody that's tuned in. That's a new development.
No, I mean, I've had gray hair in my head since I was 20.
Oh, same. But the gray beard is new for you.
I know,
That's a new look for you.
It kind of shook me when you sent that picture.
I had one gray hair one day and I plucked it, and then the next day I had like 50 gray hairs. It was like that one gray hair said, "Oh yeah, well watch this."
Story of my life, bro. That's why I cut my hair so frequently, because fucking gray hair is everywhere.
I mean, from a public standpoint, I was always very private about my age because I, at the time, thought that my age was something that people would judge you off of.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned over time is people judge you on who you are more so than they do based upon your age.
Sure.
But I think there's a very big discrepancy when it comes to hip hop, because I mean, anything you read like on social media, not even social media, but anytime you like see someone like write an article about somebody, like they point out some really obvious, they point out things that just don't seem like they need to be talked about. Like Gerald, what's G-Eazy's last name? Gerald Jellum or something like that?
Yeah.
G-Eazy, 32, arrested. Why is his age relevant?
Right.
I don't understand. Like they built this stigma up about people's age. Like, oh, Machine Gun Kelly, 31, with girlfriend Megan Fox, 35. Why are their ages relevant to who they are as people or what you're writing about?
I agree.
So like they've built this stigma about you can only be in the rap game if you're a certain age, or you can only expect to see success during a certain age. And don't get me wrong, maybe that's data driven based upon the level of success that people of a certain age, like maybe more people in this age demographic tend to be more successful than people in the older age demographic, which I don't doubt that at all. Like it makes no sense for a label to sign a 38-year-old rapper. It makes a lot of sense for a label to sign a 22-year-old rapper.
I have a theory on that. And obviously it's a theory, so open for discussion. My theory on that is like we're now in a point of time where for the first time ever, we're seeing rappers hit their late 30s, early 40s, even in their 50s now. Back in the day, if a rapper hit superstardom, unfortunately, they fucking died early. Whether it was Pac, whether it was Big, even with fucking like now, like with Juice WRLD and those type of artists. Well, we're now starting to see for the first time like Jay-Z approaching his 50s, Dr. Dre in his 50s, Eminem late 40s. And I think like we're in the first time for an era where the age isn't necessarily as important for that. Like, I mean, also like looking back on that, Eminem didn't put out his first big project till he was what, 29?
Yeah.
J. Cole started early, but he's in his mid 30s now.
26.
Was he 26? Okay. For some reason, I did the math wrong on Marshall Mathers LP when that came out and versus his age.
Well, there's a Slim Shady LP before that.
That's right.
You want to get into a debate about Eminem? Let's go, motherfucker.
No, I wasn't debating. I was just like putting into like context. And then Kendrick Lamar also was the same thing. He was like 26, 27. Who we talked about earlier. Mike Star didn't pop off till he was 26, 27. And I think there is something to be said about like there is young superstars that pop off really fucking early. But typically speaking, if they pop off early, they don't really last. Or if they do last, they don't pop off. They pop off early, then they kind of go into hiding and then pop off again later. I don't know if that's an age thing. I don't know if that's the content you're creating thing. I don't know if that's a maturity thing. But I also think it ties into what Cato and I talked about last night with the fucking term of superstars. I don't think superstars really exist these days.
Yeah, I mean, so basically what we were talking about is how loosely the term star is attached to people and how whether or not that's like a demand of the industry and how you speak about people in the business, or if that's just the lack of creativeness that our journalists have come accustomed to, which I would probably say it's more the latter than the former. But again, it's the same laziness when you see people writing and attaching people's names to what they wore, or, you know, I think the example we were talking about last night is like, okay, Eminem. Is Eminem a superstar? Is Eminem a rock star? No. Eminem is a fucking global icon. He is a walking, living legend. Same with Elton John. Elton John is a global icon, walking, living legend. Is John Smith, who went to an audition for Big Brother that won that season, is the terminology star? Should that really be attached to his name?
I don't think so.
I think the threshold that you have to cross to become that, to have star attached to your name, is that the overwhelming majority of the population knows who you are.
Right.
That's it. I'm not saying that's celebrity status, because that's a whole different beast in itself. But
celebrity and star aren't the same terminology either.
Not at all. Like people can know who you are and you not walk down the street and get mobbed. If you're a celebrity, different story.
Right.
Like, I think that term in itself is too loosey goosey.
And also, like, there's so many people who start coming up in whatever it is, music, acting, modeling, influencer, whatever the fuck it is. They say they want to be a star, they want to be a superstar. But realistically speaking, it's like in the field that I know is music, and it seems like superstardom, unless you're like the anomaly that's popped off now, like like a Post Malone, or like when Juice World popped, like they were superstars. But typically speaking, it seems like if you're going to become a superstar, it doesn't happen unless somebody who existed before social media co-signs you or does a song with you.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty accurate. But there obviously are exceptions to the rule.
Right.
Not yes, that is probably the easiest way for it to happen. I know easy is not the real terminology, but like take The Weeknd for instance. The Weeknd was nobody until Drake co-signed him.
Right.
But Drake was also 2009. Social media was here, so
But also,
Justin,
Drake's most popular album was written in full by The Weeknd.
yeah, Justin Bieber, same thing, like co-signed from Usher. Not to say that Bieber wouldn't have eventually become the icon that he is, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that statement to a degree, but obviously there are exceptions to the rule, and I can't even. Nobody co-signed Post Malone.
That's what I mean. Like, there's a few anomalies where like
Nobody co-signed G-Eazy. Nobody co-signed, and if you think fucking what's his nuts, what the fuck is his name?
Nobody co-signed Ross.
Yeah, nobody co-signed Ross. Nobody co-signed Nelly. Nobody co-signed T.I.
Well, they were pre-social media. Hot in Here existed when I remember fucking Ride With Me. I was fucking 5 years old in my mom's car.
When you were riding with her?
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. Those people are pre-existing to that, but there is a large group of people that did not get other artist cosigns and still achieve that status. Now, don't get me wrong, during that window of time when those artists were coming up and those people I named are in that same breath,
blogs existed.
They had blogs existed. There was a difference. You still got co-signed, but you got co-signed by people who shouldn't really have that position of power to begin with.
Right.
That makes sense.
Like I know a couple of blog owners or previous blog owners. I like them as people. But I guess what it boils down to at the end of the day is like at the time of those blogs are becoming popular, they were just college kids. Can anybody tell me what experience they had at the time that could really give them validation to be able to be the one? It was their preference on their music choice. That's what it was. That's all that it was. There was no like we're an A&R guy for an intern for Interscope, and one of our jobs was to create a website that was basically an A&R style website. That would be a valid reason to be like, okay, yeah, Tim Weber, you are in that position to deem who is next and who's not next. Tim obviously built that fucking website into a beast, and I'm pretty sure he sold it to Vice or Double XL or somebody, and they were like, doing stuff for one of those big publications. So
Tim
kudos
Weber
to him
was
for
music all day, right?
Yeah, so he good for him. But I'm just saying, like, if you really want to get down to the nuts of it and look at who created those blogs, I guess the question is, outside of your personal preference of music, why should we listen to you? Is really at what it is at the end of the day. And you can say that about any A&R. Like, just because you work in the business doesn't mean you know what good music is. You just you know what's going to be trendy is really more what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think like the blog sphere has kind of translated to like playlist curators, like the Rap Caviar playlist curator is Carl Sherry right now. And it's the same thing with him. Is like, what other than his personal taste qualifies him to decide what's next?
Dude, it's really about what's trendy and what they feel can make money. That's what it all boils down to. If they don't feel like they can make money off of you, and there could be a variety of factors that go into that. And unfortunately, age is one of them. Age, your sound, what they feel your marketability is, the content of your music, which is why music is unfortunately, especially in the rap world, never going to get out of the realm of the content that we're in. You're never like, it's why artists that speak about different things, you see small pockets of success, and then use Macklemore as a perfect for instance. He used like his own personal tragedies through his drug abuse as a way to launch his platform, and he was very good storytelling. But as soon as he stopped talking about his own personal problems and started to try to make the music that he liked, I'm not saying he didn't like the other music, like you kind of saw Macklemore fall off the face of the earth, which is unfortunate. So, you know, G-Eazy talks about it a lot in his music, and I reference him a lot because people always tell me that I look like him, but it's really the opposite because he's younger than me. So he looks like me. But the one song, that was always the plan. Like he openly says, like, the plan was to stack bread and then shit on everybody like I don't fucking care. That's what he says. But the problem is, if you go back and listen to his music, he never actually talked about that.
No.
He talked about fucking a lot, drinking a lot, doing drugs, being a bad boyfriend. Those are the things he talked about. He never made a song on the Hi-Fi Stereo, whatever that first mixtape was. He never made a song that said, hey, my goal is to get as big as fuck and then not give a fuck. Like, he never said that. You just kind of like got that vibe off of who he was. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. And he said whatever he wanted. So, yeah. But I do want to tell a story real quick off of Good Music All Day, because this is relevant to my situation that I have here.
Okay.
I did a show with Mark Goon, and I think we were opening for, I don't even remember who we were opening for. But it was right at about the time that I was making all the wrong decisions. I was buying views, buying likes, and I went from getting love on blogs to making that mortal sin to not getting love on blogs. And randomly one fucking day, I see this website. Have I told you this story before?
You have told me this story. This is a great story.
Randomly one day, I see somebody post about a new website called Bad Music All Day. Bad Music All Day. So I clicked on it, nothing was on there. And I saw something the next day, and Riff Raff was on there. It was the video where like the girl's toes were on his face.
Oh.
All over his face. And at that time I was like, okay, makes sense. And then I checked the blog a couple days later. Guess who else was on there?
Cato.
Me.
You were pissed.
I was like, what the fuck? What the what? I don't even, who's writing this? I was like, maybe it's some pissed off writer from Good Music All Day doing this shit. Turns out it was a guy named Chase. I don't remember his last fucking name. He was good friends with Mark Goon. And it was weird. Like, I went and did the show, and I got introduced to this guy named Chase. I had no idea it was him. And I got off stage, and like, Chase comes up to me, and he's like, oh man, Cato, he's like, I just want to let you know, man, that I prematurely judged you, but your show was awesome, man. It was super entertaining, like blah blah blah. I was like, I appreciate it. And again, no fucking idea who this guy was. So he gave me his business card or some website that he had, and like, we went out and hung out at his like buddy's apartment afterwards. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like looking at his website, and I'm seeing like some things that are just starting to like make sense. I'm seeing like similar imagery, similar fonts, similar things that I'm seeing on this Bad Music All Day website. And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Did you do this shit?
And the next time I came in town, I did a show. Chase was there, and I pulled him aside afterwards. And I'm like, hey man, I got a question for you. You ever heard of a site called Bad Music All Day? And he just like laughed. Like, I'm just going to tell you this right now. Yeah, I wrote all those things about you. And I was like, I wasn't even mad. I just didn't know what to say. And he's like, but I do want to say that's why I came up to you after that show. And I said what I said, because I realized that you were an awesome fucking dude, and I made a fucking mistake. And I was like,
that's fair.
Well, at least you owned up to it. And now here I am, 6-7 years later, working with the same guy that I was on the same blog with, Bad Music All Day.
That brings us back to literally the first fucking thing we said, universal connections.
Mm-hmm.
The way the
Crazy.
universe works is fucking wild. Well, also that. So, with that being said, the bad music all day thing. Do you think there's this always connotation that's always existed? No press is bad press. Was that bad press, or did that help you? Did that help Rick?
It didn't do anything for me.
No.
His circle was too small. It was more like an isolated incident.
Gotcha. So it was like
Like an inside joke.
yeah, not a lot of people knew the site existed.
And the funny thing is I'm sure Mark knew. I know he knew.
Yeah.
But him and I always got along really fucking well.
Mark Goon's a
It
good
was just
guy.
one of those. It was like just one of those weird things. Like, why are you guys fucking with me? I don't understand. Like, I don't even know you. Why are you coming at me? So it was weird.
Strange behavior.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. I feel like there's some people who are like literally just naturally trolls and just do dumb shit to like fuck with people, and I think that's probably what that was.
I mean, they put Mark on that list too. That was the irony of it.
Like that's what I mean. Is like they're trolls to fuck with people, but like if you look at some of the people who fucking pop right now, like the Paul brothers, they're fucking idiots, but they get their fucking popularity off of bad press.
It's true.
Like I wonder if that was the mindset behind that at the time. Was like we're gonna give this bad press and get people to go fucking look for it.
Like I remember when Logan found that dead body in the woods and like posted it online. Like that got him an insane amount of bad press, and he kind of like popped like off after that little incident.
And that's what I mean. Is like there's like even back then, like YouTube algorithms were fucking similarly crazy to what Spotify's are now. So like was their thought process, this is Mark Goon's friend trying to create this website to get people to go click on Mark Goon's link eventually after putting other artists and other people's names on there to be like, oh, look at this shit. Spread this shit.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty common sense. That was the case, but it still didn't answer the question as to why I was lumped into it.
That's fair.
Maybe he secretly liked my music and he was trying to get me some more love. I don't fucking know, but he said some really hurtful shit.
Either that or he saw your name on every fucking show that he was trying to be on.
Very likely.
Because if I remember back in 2014 through 2016 when I knew you and you were still doing music, every single fucking show of people that I was like listening to, you were on.
Oh yeah. I was a badass.
You were on every fucking show.
It's because that was fun. It was fun to watch.
You did have a great stage show.
I'm not gonna lie. When you're white, you're white. When you're white, you're white.
I mean, I was like Bobby and I's stage show was completely different than a solo Ryan show, but there's like career shit. There's tidbits and pointers and shit that I have taken from Cato.
Oh man, let's not get started on a list of people who have stolen my stage show, because that's a conversation for a whole other fucking day.
I mean,
but,
I'm down to bring it up if you are, but
not worth going
your
down
energy.
Not worth going down that rabbit hole. I've closed off that chapter in my life, and
I remember hearing that story way back in the day.
You remember when I threatened to curb stomp that kid?
Bobby and I were just talking about that the other day. Actually, no, not even the other day. On the FaceTime before I fucking got the Zoom call loaded up, we were talking about that.
What was his name? Anthony.
There was this fucking white dude that dropped the N-word every other 3 words.
Like, all I told him was like, if you got to explain it, that's why you shouldn't say it.
Yep. And then everybody was looking at him sideways too, and he kept doing it. And you even like said like, I will cut your mic off.
And then I did. And then he came back on, he said it again. And then I fucking choke slammed him against the wall. And I told him if he said it one more time, I was going to take him outside and curb stomp his ass.
And then he
what you said,
playing that night.
He left. He was scared.
Actually, what you said was you were going to put his teeth on the concrete, jump on his head.
It was so graphic. I loved it.
Before we get into another serious matter, I think we have to pause for a story time. Cato, do you remember when we were doing that little few city run with OnQ? in Boston, and we decided to have a drink off.
Yes, that was a glorious day.
So
we had a matinee show. We had a matinee show at
it was Middle East in Boston.
Middle East, yeah. I had a matinee show at Middle East. Ryan started drinking early in the day. I felt necessary to follow suit. And then we decided we were going to go start exploring Boston, downtown Boston. And we went to some like Irish pub.
Yeah.
Ate, drank, and then you had some friend that worked somewhere that did the show with us, and he had to go to work, but then he came out. He took us over to Harvard.
It was Viz.
To the bars over there. And what made that night suck for me is Henny is my go-to when I'm drunk, but the bartender like gave us a double shot of Henny, and that was when my night turned bad.
Okay, but our deal. We need to preface this with the deal.
Yeah, so we made a deal. We didn't even really bet anything. We just made a bet of who would and would not throw up that night.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't thrown up in a long time, so I was like, "There's no way it's gonna be me. I'll put you in the ground." And then the Henny shot totally fucked me up. I got in the fucking Uber. We got about 30 feet down the road across the bridge, and I was like, "Yo, pull over." And I fucking chucked out the side of the Uber, and then went back, passed out. And Ryan would have won the deal fair and square until he woke up and he threw up.
The next fucking morning, bro.
So we called it a wash.
Bro, but it wasn't even just the fucking Henny. The shots of Patron were full fucking glasses this big.
Yeah, there was a lot of alcohol. A lot.
Like, but to be fair, the amount of money we paid per shot, it should have been that cheap. Fucking big. No, it wasn't cheap.
Oh, the Harvard bar was expensive.
No, the bar that we went to for beers and food was cheap. But when we went out to like that other spot where we got the Henny shots and the Patron shots, that shit was like, it was like $18 for a shot, but the shots were like this.
Yeah, it was big boy shit.
So
unless you came to get down, don't come out.
That was when Cato tried to teach me how to dance.
Yeah, because I saw you try to dance on some girl, and I was like, bro, that is not it. Whatever you just did, that is not it.
No game, no dance moves.
Let me teach you how to Dougie. Let me teach you how to sea walk.
So, in the drinking sphere, am I one of the few that have gone toe to toe with Cat Olive?
Oh yeah, one of the few. You should be very proud of that, actually.
Shout out my liver.
Shout out your liver. If it wasn't for that goddamn Henny. Goddamn Henny.
I can go toe to toe with Cat Olive. We can run it.
No. Let's restate that. You went toe to toe. But hey, sometimes it's all it takes before someone goes in the ground. I mean, for all you know, that could have severely hurt your chances of that ever repeating again. You could have literally done life altering damage trying to drink with a champ.
Yeah, and also,
but it was worth it. I mean, I assume it was worth it.
It was a great time, and also I will be fair to you, but also I'm not trying to insult you at the same time. There's like a 9-year gap between us.
That should work in your favor.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I'm not like that's what I mean, to be fair to you, but not trying to insult you at the same time. At the time, there was a 9-year gap. I mean, there still is, but like at the time, like I was 9 years younger than you.
Did time stop for me?
No, that's what I mean. That it still is, but it worked in my favor to be 9 years younger. Cat Olive in his prime, I don't know that I could have.
Oh God, dude.
I mean, you're still in your prime, but Cat Olive before his prime, before
you knew me, if you had knew me, dude, you wouldn't have wanted to know me.
It would have
put it that way.
I don't know that I would have went toe to toe that night. I would have yacked first. So,
what other riveting topics do we have? Because I hate to say this, but I do need to jump.
No, you're good. We do have, as far as like what we wrote down in the note, one that you wrote in was Apple passwords.
Oh, this is just super random. I've been getting a lot of notifications lately about compromised passwords from Apple. And then my dad even sent me something from their IT department about Apple's issuing like statements to people who use Apple, especially for like business purposes, that there have been some data leaks. So Apple, I told my dad, I was like, bro, I've been getting the compromised passwords prompt for a year now. Like, that's just Apple's way of getting you to download the new software.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of people who did not upgrade to 14.5 because they don't like Apple having that kind of influence on their lives. So I was just super random. I saw that last night because I saw another compromised password pop up, and I'm just like, have you guys seen that shit too?
I haven't.
Am I the only one?
I have not seen it.
I haven't seen it.
But how much time do you have? Because I do have a few other points that I would like to kind of bounce off of.
Just ask. Let's go.
Okay, so the one of the things that I wanted to refer back to is like, I get a lot of questions like as far as like playlisting goes, how do I get on playlists and how do I because I run social media ads, and there's one technique that I have just found that I want to reiterate on, but I wanted to get your outlook on when you're setting up ads. Is there a minimum budget, or is it okay for the artist who doesn't have a lot of money to run $1 a day ads?
Well, I mean, that's an A/B test type scenario. You have to see what works for you. Not every spend is applicable to the next person. It's just not. So I can't, yes, no, maybe so. I couldn't give you a solid answer, but if you've done it and there's data that supports that that's a doable thing, then do it.
Right.
But,
so,
go ahead.
And I guess like my question on that is, so say you have a $50 a month marketing budget when you're starting out, right? And there's these playlists that pop up, and the curator is saying you could be on this playlist for 28 days, and it's going to cost you $35, or you can individually run $35 worth of ads a month. What do you think is more beneficial to the artist's dollar?
Spotify
playlisting.
Easily.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, like Spotify makes you money, YouTube makes you money. Does Facebook make you money?
Now it does.
You can make money off of Facebook through your following, but as far as like posting something and running an ad to it, like it's
yes.
At the end, like I tell people this all the time, like if you're not focused on YouTube and Spotify, then don't even waste your fucking money.
Right.
Like spending money on Facebook and Instagram is cool because it allows you to get announcements out there to your fans and reach more people with the proper information when you want to spend the money. But at the end of the day, like the only people you're satisfying by getting likes on your Facebook is your ego. That's it. Right. I'd rather have 0 likes on a post and 10,000 Spotify monthly listeners.
100%. And one of the things that I've been obviously like doing this as long as I have in the artist sphere. I've experimented with techniques and marketing and all sorts of different shit. And one of the things that I came up with not too long ago was, so I created a playlist on Spotify, added like 40 songs to it, and I integrated 4 or 5 of my songs in this playlist amongst popular artists. And what I did was I made this playlist, and then I created like a toned in link to it for Spotify and Apple. And obviously I tweeted it to my Twitter account, but then I started running story ads to it. And through the story ads, in a month and a half, it's accumulated 2,000 likes on the playlist. And the playlist has started accumulating followers organically through Spotify. And then like when I look at the toned in stats, it's got quite a few follows just through the ads, probably in the upwards of 1,200. So it's more so coming from the ads. And my plays on that are the royalty payout from the plays versus the ad. I'm making more money from plays than I'm spending in ads. Is that an approach that you've ever heard of, or is that something new? Is that something you recommend, or is that just like a one-off situation?
I mean, how do you think playlists get started to begin with?
Ads.
Well, that same concept. People making playlists, trying to build up popular content and mix in other things, so whether or not they can monetize it later through charging people to get on it, or if it's for your own personal gain. It's a very smart way to do it. The problem is it's working for you. That's great. I don't have a lot of experience to tell you otherwise and say that it can't be scaled up and down based upon spend and whether or not you're going to recoup that on streaming.
Right.
But what I do know is that at the end of the day, one of the hardest things. Like Facebook still allows you to advertise clothing and music. I'm sorry, clothing and concert tickets without much of an interference from them.
Right.
Because those are two things that they don't offer. They do offer the e-commerce side where you can sell stuff specifically through Facebook, but they are an integrated partner with Shopify and WooCommerce. So like through those partnerships, they're going to allow certain things to happen that they wouldn't normally let happen through other destination URLs. And what I say by that is Facebook, Spotify, and Apple, like they're not friends. Like they're not friends at all. Right. So running ads to music is very challenging. So if you found a way that works, that's fucking super dope. But the reality is I haven't seen a ton of success with running targeted ads to one platform. You have to do like the tone dens, or you have to do the smart URLs where you're giving people more of an option. And even then, like it's still a crapshoot. Like you're not always going to get a return on your money. But if you've found that to be successful, then I would say keep pushing it.
For sure. And the other thing is, well, there's two other things that I want to talk about before we let you go. I see a lot of artists that come to us, or that I see like in my DMs, trying to, obviously merch with artists is very important. And you're very heavily in this field right now. When it comes to pushing merch, what is your opinion on, do you brand the merch first? Do you brand the artist first? Do you coincide it? What is your thought process on that for somebody who may not be in that 1,000 to 3,000 monthly listener sphere yet?
I mean, merch is a great investment to get into at any stage of your career, in my opinion. It's the best way for people to show support outside of coming to a concert. That's actual money in your pocket.
Right.
But it's, I mean, picking what comes first, the cart or the horse, like I don't have a solid answer for that. I would say, in my opinion, maybe the merch is always going to reflect the artist anyway. So the branding of the artist is more important first. Because then quotes and song lyrics and things that you have to say or who you are as a person can then start to be translated onto apparel.
Mm-hmm.
And, if people gravitate towards a certain song or a name title, or my main goal is to blow up, act like I don't know nobody. Okay, well, now you've got branded merch that goes along with you, who you are as a person and as an artist. Trying to make, like, I do feel that people appreciate creativity more than they do simplicity. So if you can give people a value purchase, they're more than willing to spend the money on it because they know that you put more time into it. If you just do a white t-shirt with your name on it, people are less likely to get that because it's very bland. Doesn't stand out. But if you've got a really creative process, they know that you've spent a decent amount of money on said product, and the price that you're selling it for reflects that cost and the markup. I'll firmly believe that people will pay for it, especially if it's higher quality material as well, not just the lower tiered stuff like Gildan. But I don't knock Gildan. We sell Gildan as well.
Right. And do you recommend, like, you as the artist or as the artist team having an actual inventory of merch, or doing the on-demand merch services?
It depends on what your budget is. It really does.
Always depending on the budget.
It's a slippery slope, man. Print on demand can be good if you don't have a budget. That way the consumer's purchase is what's funding the actual product. But I mean, my personal opinion is that people need to have their own shit. Print on demand is doo-doo, and those companies should all fucking burn in hell.
Fair enough. And
but I will say this, there's a difference between print on demand for the basics, and then there's a difference between customized products that are made on a one-by-one basis, because that's just how the type of material, like we work with a company called Savvy Customs. They could be considered a print on demand, but they're fucking badass. Like they make dope shit. Like they make jerseys, shit that is just so, it's not cost efficient to buy 100 jerseys at $23 a clip. So having that as a more of a setup and on-demand type thing works better for all parties, except for when there's delays. If it's t-shirts, If it's t-shirts, then I would say on demand is not the way to go.
Right. Yeah, because like jerseys, the only way to really profit off a $23 jersey is to sell that shit for $50.
I mean, look at Webby's latest drop. He's fucking selling that mushroom jersey for $119.
Oh wow.
But I have one. It's dude,
his jerseys are dope.
It's not sublimated. It's patches, actual patches.
Holy shit.
Sewn on the jersey. So it's a high quality fucking product. It probably costs a lot to get made.
He does those limited edition, right?
Yeah, well, he only did like 100 or 250 of them.
So, I mean, yeah, the limited edition aspect of that makes sense to do at that high of a price.
Yeah.
So, and lastly, before we go into our wrapping segment, when it comes to building a fan base, as far as like you've seen in your experience, is it better? There's no better or worse. Everybody's is individual to their own artist self. What have you seen as more efficient? Do you see performing live, hopping on shows, or do you see like ads and running social media campaigns to be more efficient? Oh, he put the goggles on. It's about to get real.
Everything.
All the above.
All of the above. I agree with Russ and everything that man says because he's a fucking genius.
Yes.
But I do believe that he's a unicorn, and I don't believe that his specific situation is applicable to everybody.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. There are plenty of real world scenarios out there where people have blown up outside of their hometown first. There's plenty of real world scenarios where people have blown up in their hometown first. Kid Rock, perfect example. Kid Rock and fucking Uncle Kracker were living in fucking New York. They were trying to cut records. They were driving back and forth, Detroit to New York, and trying to get A&Rs to come out to their shows. But they were the biggest fucking thing in Detroit at that time. No one else knew who the fuck Kid Rock was.
Yeah.
Granted, no social media, no streaming. That's the difference here. But it took him selling out this one specific place multiple fucking times for labels to take notice. Now, again,
take him serious.
And that's his hometown. If he was able to do that in another market after doing that in his hometown, obviously, man, this guy's really got something. And nowadays, blowing up in your hometown is not as important. But one thing that you do find a lot is artists who didn't blow up in their hometown still pay a lot of homage to their roots, which is I find to be kind of weird because, like, why are you paying homage to a place that really didn't help you?
Right. Didn't support
you. It was you getting out. Like, it's Seattle, like, yeah, like Macklemore's from Seattle and maybe he had a small buzz, but like, dude, Macklemore got big because he hit the fucking ground running and he didn't stop touring, taking door deal. Like, It wasn't Seattle that put Macklemore on the map. It was Macklemore that put Macklemore on the fucking map.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't the Bay to the universe. It wasn't Oakland that put G-Eazy on the map. It was G. Put G on the map.
Right.
Well, and Lil Wayne's manager, but
yeah,
you know.
But that was G putting himself in a position to get with Lil Wayne's manager.
Yeah.
So, and I guess like an extended part of that question is, do you think that the obviously consistent touring is crucial to that aspect of that? If you're doing it nationally, touring, or if you're doing it in your hometown and building like that fan base, do you think the consistent output of music is essential to that?
Oh, Jesus Christ, yes.
So single, not project.
Yeah, obviously the approach is way different than what it ever was. And again, there's plenty of success stories on either side of the spectrum. But the way that I've seen it work most frequently now is singles. Like, that's just.
So do you discourage a project then? Or do you discourage a project, or do you recommend single, 4 extra tracks on a project?
I mean, the approach that Echo had with Detour was a good approach. That record did really good streaming numbers, and it was largely in part to the 8 or 10 tracks that he had leading up to it. It might have been even more than that. Like, all those singles really led the way. Same thing to say for Webby. Like, you know, he's a single guy. Riff's in a little bit different of a position because, like, he's not really interested in maybe putting out an album, but he'll put out like a 6 to 7 track EP that kind of has the same thing, but it it doesn't like box you in and say, well, okay, well, why would you put out a 20-track album if you're going to 6 weeks down the road put out a single? Like that's not the mindset over here. Like it's singles, staying relevant, singles, working in features like the new record with Wolf Mossy remix. It's a fucking song. It's a banger.
Yeah.
But like the next thing coming after that is an EP. But who's to say there might not be a single that comes out before that
or after? So, yeah, that's fair. I think that's I think you're right. I think the singles game is where it is right now, and I think artists just have to consistently put out content. And again, it's a difficult thing for people to grasp because like at the same time, like every song is new to someone new for the first time. Right.
That's just how it is. And artists, I think if you can walk the line of not giving up on your catalog while consistently putting out new music, I think that's the best road you can be on. If it's release song, died out, on to the next, like I think that's a bad approach. But I think if you can consistently say that from the day that you started this concept and this process, if every song, you may get better as an artist, you may do different creative things, sure. But if you can say that everything that you put out from the time you started this until the time that you either eventually get success or you stop that process is stamped with your approval, then I think that's what kind of gives you, because like Raw Thoughts 5 is probably better than any record that Webby's put out all year long, but it doesn't negate the fact that he put out these records, these awesome other records. Like Mossy Remix is a massive record because both Riff and Wolf were on it, but that doesn't negate the fact that he dropped a record with Cash Motivated 6 weeks ago called Pussy Financial. So like it doesn't negate that, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like you push the records that do better, but you also push the old catalog, and your money is in your catalog.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Your money's in your catalog. Don't ever give up on your catalog.
Yeah, push the old shit, push the new shit equally.
If you put it out to the public, don't just put it out to put it out because there's been a lull in your releases. Put it out because that's the music that's the sound you want. That's what you're going for.
Yeah, I think Russ is very good at that. He will put out new songs, but then he'll do a throwback video of one of his older songs to like put life into that.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. And so yeah, 100%. You're on point with that. So Cato, again, want to give you your flowers and say thank you for everything that you do for us in our career. Thanks for hopping on the podcast. What is going on currently and what's coming next for Cato and CLM?
Well, we've obviously got the Webby stuff. Trying to, work with Riff and the team and figure out how touring in October is going to look. I just signed a deal with Montana 300, doing 6 shows with him, while another promoter friend of mine is going to do 4 shows. So we're doing 10 shows combined in November. I offered Dizzy 7 shows for December, but because of his scheduling conflict with stuff he's got going on in Australia, like I'm having some challenges with placing all the dates. So it might slim down to 4 shows. Not sure yet, but
okay.
Kevin's moving down here in a couple of days. Goal is to help him in this process and get him comfortable and up to speed. And, I'm always going to be receptive to the fact that March and October are going to be the busiest touring months of the year. So there might be more artists that I work with, but I think in the end of the day, like my real goal until we have more people working is just going to be to knock out anywhere from 4 to 8 shows a month with one artist and control the routing, control the whole situation, control the ticketing. I think that's just that's the best route for me to make money and, not feel like I'm giving up so much. It's something that I can actually physically, tangibly control to the best of my ability.
Fair enough. So, to those people who are listening, I would like to say that relationships are very important. 7 years ago, Bobby and I went on a fucking limb, bought onto a show in St. Louis and met this dude named fucking Cato, who now owns this empire of a company called CLM Presents. He doesn't call it an empire, but in the entertainment sphere, he runs and has control over certain control over, and when I say control over, I mean he dominates certain markets, and those markets have now become essential to our careers and many other people's careers who are much bigger than us. And relationships are important, and if you're lucky enough to encounter somebody and become friends with somebody who knows the ins and the outs, then you're in good shape. And I think there's something to be said about somebody who comes in your corner and rides for you, no matter if you have somebody who's willing to coach you. You know, Cato has been a coach for us. Coach Cato, you know?
Coach K.
Ari calls me Coach Schaefer all the time.
Yeah.
If I'm somewhere with Riff, I'll be like on my phone in my dad clothes, like my fucking gym shorts and whatnot, and Maserati will like put me on his IG story, and then 5 seconds later, Ari will screenshot me a picture that says Coach Schaefer, and I'm like, you're such a dick.
I mean, it's maybe he's a dick, but also it's true. Like Cato has coached me as far as like, I'm not one of those people who can obtain an audience through fucking virality. I can't put a fucking camera in front of me and create fucking skits for TikTok. I can't create fucking skits for social media things. But what I can do is I can go out and I can put on a live show and obtain fans. And having and it's not just music. Like if I have fucking real life shit going on, I can call Cato and he'll give me fucking, I call his insight Catoisms. Or Catosism, not Catoisms, Catosisms.
I have Catosisms all the time.
No, but I really do. I call him Catosisms. He's all around good guy, and lucky enough to call him a friend in real life. But when it comes to the business shit, he's a mentor, he's a coach, and we are grateful that he was willing to hop on the pod and share the knowledge with the people who come in contact with us. And I'm happy.
A lot of knowledge in this podcast.
A lot of knowledge bombs were dropped, and I am happy that 99.9% of these shows that I do are with Cato and CLM and Kevin and Gage. All those guys are great dudes, and if people listening can take away one thing from this, it's just fucking put in the drive and put in the work and be honest about it, you know?
And get out of your own way. Don't block your own blessings.
True.
100%. Cato, do you have parting words for us? Do you have things that you would like to say to anybody?
I mean, you know, I've done a multitude of podcasts. Not all people have done them with their friends. I'm not a little repetitive parrot. Sometimes my tune changes, but at the end of the day, I do have one thing that like I said, try to live by, and that's just being a good person when it comes to business. I mean, being a good person in general, but you'll get a lot farther in life if people know they can trust you with money and all these variations of what people deem success. So that's my parting words on that, is that be a good person and you'll have a lot more blessings. And yeah, I am happy. I'm happy that I'm in the industry. I'm 17-year-old me 20 years ago. Fuck. I would have never thought that I'd be where I am now. So,
I have, and Bobby, do you have parting words for us before I end this? I just started like a fucking idiot, but here we are.
No, I just want to thank Cato for hopping on the podcast. A lot of knowledge was put into this. I learned a lot, inspiring, and I'm excited for these upcoming shows and what's to come for the future.
Hell yeah.
I have one parting question, Cato.
Shoot.
Actually, I have two parting questions. One's a dumb one, one's a serious one. Parting question one. We have a lot of people who hop on here and they're like, Cato's like, I'm ready to fucking go. Parting question one is, do you encourage or discourage people who are 29 through 33 from pursuing music? No. So keep going, keep pushing is the fucking message there. And question two, when I see you again, are we drinking Corona or Bud Light?
Bud Light. What do you mean?
Let's fucking go. All right, we
All right,
appreciate
I
you.
Everybody, everybody,
appreciate
thank
you,
you
Cato.
so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Sundays Brunch. Thank you so much for our guests, Cato, Cat Olive, for
Cat
checking
Daddy.
in.
Cato, plug your socials.
Cato Live Music. CAT.
Bang,
Cato,
you got it
Cato
right
Live
there.
Music. You got it.
Perfect. Everybody, thank you for coming to brunch. And as always, next week, don't be late and don't miss brunch.
We'll see you next week.
Catch y'all later.
Peace.